The mini series of iPhones lasted 2 years, unless of course you count the phones prior to the iPhone 6. For most, this is a hated model, but for others like me, it's well received. We are a part of the 5% or something low like that, but if you're not one of those that finds this phone interesting, then let me tell you why you would consider buying the iPhone 12 mini in 2023. Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review, and today I get to use this tiny phone again. Let's get started. So let's address the elephant in the, wait, that's a bad saying. How about the needle in the haystack? This phone is small and so is the screen at a simple 5.4 inches, being a 1080p OLED panel that runs at 60 Hz. This is the highest pixel density of any iPhone, being 476 pixels per inch and a decent brightness of 625 nits, while HDR content goes up to 1200 nits. This is covered by the ceramic shield, which pretty much means durable screen and scratches like crazy. Viewing content on this is amazing, but also small, let's be honest. But given the size, the quality and the feel is just like the iPhone 12 with its 6.1 inch screen, just on the mini the notch feels even bigger, even though it technically isn't. What does look big is ads, and let me talk to you for another 20 seconds to remind you that you can now join the channel as a member and watch these videos the second I publish them with no ads or speeches like this. Truly ad-free. All for a monthly price of about a third of a Starbucks drink. Something to think about. The screen is nice, but I do understand why some people don't like it, but that's just because of the size. If you don't like the screen size, then you probably don't actually want a small phone, making the argument make sense. But as someone that enjoys going back to a small phone, I love having this option. Now, normally phones with small screens mean that they would have worse hardware. Ironically, the iPhone SE models are known for overheating because of the small sizes. With the iPhone 12 mini, that doesn't seem to happen. Sure, the phone gets warm, but the iPhone SE screen would dim so much more often than what I see with the mini series. But the iPhone 12 mini itself is running the A14 Bionic chip with a simple 4GB of RAM and 64, 128, or 256GB of storage. The iPhone 12 series is no slouch, and this applies to the mini. The phone breezes through tasks like it's nothing, as it should for a 2-year-old iPhone. This runs iOS 16, and it has a couple more years of updates left with the way that Apple is going. I would say that this is going to go until at least iOS 19. So I did this whole review on iOS 16, and obviously now we have iOS 17. And it's kind of something that people will freak out about if I don't mention it. So yes, this is now on iOS 17. I was using it on iOS 16. But one thing that you do get is you get standby, which I thought was only something that you would get on always on display phones. So like the 14 Pros and then the 15 series or 15 Pros. But it goes to every phone, even the iPhone SE, which I thought was kind of interesting because those don't have OLED screens. So I thought that was kind of cool. And yes, there are a ton of different things that you can do with this operating system. So I'm not going to explain that. I'm just going to go back to the review. Now the biggest complaint is what powers this phone, and I'm here to say that it's kind of true. This is a small 2,227 mAh battery or a tiny 8.57 watt-hour cell. By no means is the battery awesome, but I also don't see it as bad as everyone says, except for this phone. I normally use my personal iPhone 12 mini, but the battery is actually pretty good at about 94 charge cycles, saying 93% of full capacity. That being said, it's not too far off this one, which has 152 charge cycles and says 88% of full capacity left. So I'm going to continue with making this video, but right now you're going to see the results of a test that I ran to help explain the battery life of these phones. That being said, charging is fast, maxing out at roughly 20 watts of wired charging and up to 15 watts of MagSafe charging? I thought it was 12 watts of charging, yet everywhere that I see says 15 watts, even with the 13 mini. I guess I'll have to test that too. Either way, the charging is fast enough to excuse even the poorest of battery life, but still understand that most batteries are old by now and should probably be changed. One thing this phone kind of has, and again will be affected by age, is the IP68 dust and water resistance up to 6 meters. But remember, no one covers water damage under warranty, and this phone that I'm showing you right now is the iPhone 14 Plus with liquid damage. We also get Wi-Fi 6 and full 5G, being lots of 5G bands, as well as millimeter wave if you have this little bar on the right side of your phone. While we're here, let's talk about the frame. So the back is glass. No, not ceramic shield, just glass. This is where the 2 cameras, flash, and microphone are. We get a simple Apple logo, and that's it, but it does hide the wireless charging magnets under it. Then the middle band is a matte aluminum, the top having nothing, while the left is where you get the awesome mute switch, volume buttons, and SIM tray, though this phone does support eSIM, just like the iPhone 14 and the iPhone XR. The right side is where the side or power button is, and nothing else if you have the non-US version. But ours has the antenna that I talked about for the millimeter wave 5G. Then on the bottom we get the ancient Lightning port that supports an even more ancient USB 2.0. I mean, if this came out with the first version of 4G LTE and US carriers have already retired it, then the Lightning port should be considered ancient officially in 2023. Then we have the screws that hold in the screen, and on the left is the 2 holes for the microphone, while the right is where the 4 holes for the loudspeaker is. This one pairs with the top earpiece to give you a pretty decent sound, just isn't as loud as I would want it to be. That being said, I've seen way worse in bigger phones. Unlike how I just talked about how you have the ceramic shield covering the screen, this also brought back flat glass, and I'm all for it. The phone is small, like actually small. The Asus Zenfone 9 and 10, this one being the 9, looks like a normal phone compared to the mini phone, even though these are supposed to be compact phones. This is 5.18 inches tall and 135 grams, making it the smallest and lightest phone that you should consider buying, with the iPhone 13 mini being the same but sits at 141 grams. For me, this phone is pretty solid. Those wanting better battery life will not consider a phone of this size. The screen is small, the phone is small, and the battery is small, but that shouldn't be a big surprise. Also, this comes with big performance to make up with the small aspects. Now the cameras are exactly how you would expect. Good for a non-pro phone, and enough for most people. These cameras aren't affected in any way because of the size, which is always a good thing. They are all 12 megapixel sensors, being an optically stabilized wide sensor on the back, while the other rear sensor is a fixed focus ultra-wide camera, and the front one is a regular fixed focus front camera. If you see my review of the iPhone 12, or I guess the minis in previous videos, then you know what to expect. It's the same specs as before, just in a smaller phone. I love that though, giving us spectacular shots out of all 3 cameras, just you don't get the extra reach that a telephoto sensor will give you, unless you want to cut into the photo's quality. As for video recording, 4K at 60 frames per second max on all cameras, as well as pretty good stabilization, again something that iPhones are known for. There really isn't much else to say about this phone other than the gimmick features, so enjoy these shots. I mean, come on, it's an iPhone camera. Shots are going to be looking warm and not too oversaturated, and video is going to be pretty clear and color accurate. It's a good baseline for other companies to improve on. Now, I think that's it. At the end of the day, this is a modern iPhone. Honestly, I can see the appeal of older iPhones, but I've thought for a while that the iPhone 12 series and newer should be the only phones that you would want to buy. That being said, you have to buy them. The iPhone 12 is generally around $300 and up, while the iPhone 12 mini can be found under $300. But generally, if you're looking for an iPhone 12 series, you're not going to go with the cheapest phone unless you want the mini specifically for the size. This is a nice refresher that small phones can be made, and are actually desired. Even looking back, the iPhone 13 mini review I did last year has the most views of any iPhone review that I've ever done. So there is demand for mini phones, just not as much as Apple would like. In the used market, we're treated with many colors and storage options at reasonable prices for what we get. This is also a phone that I see surprises a lot of people when they switch to it, and they actually want to get the iPhone 13 mini after they use this phone. Like I've always said, if they ever make a Pro version of an iPhone mini, I would definitely buy it. And that sums up my review of the iPhone 12 mini in 2023, the Tiny King. But what do you think? Are you glad that these small phones are phasing out, or do you think that other companies should try this size? Let me know what you think, and as always, thanks for watching.